Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. Today we are talking Week 15 preview for the Buccaneers at Lions. So right now this over-under has actually been creeping down as the week goes on, but it's at 46.5 right now. Bucs are favored to win this one. Right now the implied point total is about 25 to 22, so it's supposed to be a pretty close game. This one's going to depend a lot on Jameis Winston's injury, so we'll just jump right in and talk about the fantasy options as we go through this, because that injury will impact a lot of how this game plays out. So right now it's looking like Winston is going to play, and I'm comfortable with starting him from a fantasy perspective if the story doesn't change. If you start hearing things like he's dealing with hand swelling, or there's some concern that he might not be able to grip the football appropriately, that changes my opinion completely, and then you run away from all of the Buccaneer options. But I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the assumption that he does play and he plays well. The Lions are number 9 in quarterback points allowed on the year, so this is definitely a good matchup for Winston. He'll probably still throw his 3 interceptions that he throws every week, but he'll probably back that up with 3 touchdowns and still make it a very good start. He's basically right now he's on pace to lead the league in yards, touchdowns, and interceptions, so he'll probably continue that pace going into this game. Now on the running back side of the ball for the Buccaneers, the Lions allow the 4th most points of any team to the running back position. With Evans out, Ronald Jones is actually the likely beneficiary from the running back core to receive some more targets. He's been okay in the passing game throughout the year, and I think Ronald Jones is actually a pretty decent flex this week and a good DFS play if you're looking for a cheap running back option. On the wide receiver side, Godwin is a must start. Even if Jameis Winston doesn't play, you're still playing Godwin. I don't really care too much for Breshad Perriman. I think that Justin Watson will end up receiving more of the red zone looks, and if you're playing a second option in this game, you're going to look for somebody that can hopefully get one of those 3 touchdowns that Jameis Winston is likely to throw. I think Justin Watson has a greater chance of doing so than Breshad Perriman, so if you need a flex in a deeper league without many options out there, I think you could do worse than Justin Watson. Tight end side of the ball, Cameron Brate is always very hard to trust because he's very inconsistent, but O.J. Howard is very interesting this week. O.J. Howard last week saw 5 targets, went 4 for 73, so that was a pretty decent game for a tight end. This is just his 4th time in the entire season receiving 5 or more targets, but with Evans out, Howard is going to need to step up. It's going to be very hard to pull the trigger on Howard. I know he's burned a lot of people this year, and trying to trust him in the fantasy playoffs is something that it's a hard pill to swallow, but everything is lined up for him to make a big impact. The Lions aren't very good on defense against the tight end. They definitely need playmakers to step up with Mike Evans being out, and I think Howard could definitely do that. So if you need an upside play at tight end this week, if Howard's out there on the waiver wire, or if you've been leaving him on your bench, then he is a decent start this week. Defensive side of the ball, I think the over-under is going to continue to creep down as the week goes on, but right now at 46 points, I'm liking the under on this one. I think there will still be a decent amount of points scored, but it's not going to be a shootout with David Blough on the other side of the ball. I like the Bucs to win this game, and I think they'll probably get a few turnovers from the rookie, so I think they're a decent play this week. On the Lions side of the ball, looking at the quarterback, no one's going to start David Blough. He's not really worth starting in any format, even though the Bucs are a good matchup. I'm just not trusting it. He hasn't shown us enough to trust him from a fantasy perspective other than 2 big plays that he made against the Bears. He really hasn't done anything. On the running backs, hopefully you don't have to start any of these guys. Bo Scarbrough has been putting up decent yardage, but not really giving you any kind of a safe floor with receptions because he hasn't been involved in the passing game at all. Tampa is 31st against the run for fantasy points allowed. I'm not looking to start any Lions running back this week. On the receiver side, Tampa allows the most points, so they're one of the best against the run, and they're the absolute worst against the receiver. And Marvin Jones was just put on IR. I would have put Kenny Golladay as my start of the week in my start sits if I didn't think it was obvious, but now that we're talking Kenny Golladay, you have to start him this week. Like, there's no question about that. If you have him, he's in your lineup. I think you can also flex Danny Amendola if you're desperate, because if Jameis Winston does throw his 3 touchdowns, the Lions are likely going to have to at least try to keep up and I think that Golladay can't get all of the pass volume, so Amendola might end up being a nice flex for you this week. There's no tight end that you're thinking about starting for the Lions. And then on the defensive side, even though I think Tampa ends up winning this one, the fact that Jameis Winston loves to commit turnovers makes the Lions an interesting start this week at home. I think they end up being a pretty decent play, pretty cheap DFS play, and are most likely on your waiver wire. So if you're not happy with your current defense situation, I think the Lions are actually one of the better streamers this week. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know this time of the year can be incredibly busy, so just trying to give you quick information to come up with the best, most well-educated response to keep your fantasy team alive and into the fantasy championship. So hopefully help you do that. Please like and subscribe to this video for more content, and we'll see you in the next one.